welcome to a show where you will hear about how our liberty is being eroded by the very people that swear an oath to protect it.
Today, the president signed a big new anti-terrorism bill that would expand the government's ability to track down terrorists, but at some cost.
On this show, we will discuss many of the lies that the government that hates us, by the way, we will discuss the lies that the people in positions of power and influence spread every day.
And what is the best way to confuse children? Confuse them about their sexuality, confuse them about their gender, expose them to things that their little brains are not ready for yet. That is how they are confusing children. It is leading to chaos, and Big Daddy government, of course, can be there to pick us all up and take care of us at the end of it.
We will also talk about how current elected leadership at all levels of government has been corrupted by power and control, as well as discuss the types of leadership needed to correct our republic's course.
We the people. It was time to remember that we the people are the government.
Providing assistance for the Ukrainians to defeat the Russians, that's the number one priority for the United States right now.
I am your host, Larry Linton, retired U.S. Navy Command Master Chief and prior Tennessee House of Representatives District 12 candidate, and welcome to the Liberty, Leadership, and Lies podcast. Welcome to this week's show, ladies and gentlemen, the last episode from the Goat Locker studio for a bit, as I'm about to depart on another coaching engagement. This time, I will spend almost the entire engagement down in Louisiana. Heat, humidity, bugs, alligators, whoopee, right? And I want to let you know from the outset that this episode will be a shorter than normal one. If you have been following the blog or my socials, you will know that the past few days have been extremely busy for me. And that did not leave me a lot of time for show prep. You see, I had to travel to North Carolina to help my mom get moved into her new house. It's a cute house in an awesome neighborhood that really suits her and her dog, Baxter, perfectly. It's almost like a throwback neighborhood. People are out walking their dogs, riding bikes, or jogging. And get this, while driving through the neighborhood, even the groups of teenagers would wave and smile at you as you drove by them. It almost put me in a state of shock. All in all, the move went very well. However, on the return trip, my trusty traveling vehicle for the past 20 plus years had its last trip, I believe. While towing the enclosed trailer I had borrowed from a neighbor to assist with the move on the way home, my dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree and the transmission would not shift out of the gear it was in. So I pulled over into a gas station, I hooked up the code reader to the F-150, and this truck threw up 12 different codes, and all of them informing me that multiple parts of the electrical system on the truck suffered catastrophic failure. Or failure to the point where I couldn't fix it on the road with a pair of pliers. So there I was, sitting at a gas station in a truck that wouldn't move with a 12x6 enclosed trailer hooked up to it. But my brother-in-law, he came to the rescue. He hopped in his vehicle that could tow the trailer, and only after 2 hours of sleep, he drove from Sevierville to Statesville, North Carolina, to hook up the trailer and bring me home safely. I had to have my poor truck towed back to my mom's house where it currently sits in her driveway, waiting for a professional there to give me a proper diagnosis and prognosis. But right now, it doesn't look good. But like I said, the truck has given me a lot of good miles. I've had it for nearly 23 years. And it survived a couple of moves around the country hauling a U-Haul trailer from Virginia Beach to Florida and back, as well as from Virginia Beach to El Paso, Texas and back for my 2 geographical bachelor tours. Also, while stationed in Florida for those 2 years, I traveled back and forth from Cape Canaveral to Virginia Beach at least every other weekend that I was in port. Not to mention I used it to haul my Harley on several trips that were much too long distance to ride the bike solo on. So it may be time for me to buy a new truck. And as much as I love my F-150, I will not be buying another Ford product. Not after the bull excrement Ford pulled here in Tennessee during COVID and the Blue Oval City project out near Memphis. And since Ford received nearly $1 billion of Tennessean taxpayers' money, well, That's all the money I will ever be providing them, voluntarily or involuntary, for this point forward. With all of that being said, after getting back to the house on Tuesday, I also had a couple of meetings to go to this past week. On Wednesday, I attended one where I was interviewed for a new television program that's coming out here in Sevier County. I'll be sharing the details about it on my website and socials once it gets up and running. Then yesterday, I met with a Sevier County Republican Party official. I was hoping that at that meeting I can influence the county GOP to issue some sort of proclamation to push back on trans-Republican Governor Bill Lee's call for a special session to pass some sort of red flag law here in Tennessee. Then today I will be spending it preparing for the next coaching engagement. Packing, sending my objectives to the client, busy. So, as I said, this will be a shorter episode, but I definitely want to make the audience aware of a few things to keep on their radar. The first thing is what I referred to just a bit ago. Governor Bill Lee is called to convene a special session of the General Assembly in August, all in furtherance of him not following his oath, not being a conservative Republican as he had advertised to get elected and reelected. And he's also pressuring the General Assembly members to violate their oaths of office. If you live here in Tennessee, I urge you to contact your state senator and your state representative and get them on record in opposition to these proposed red flag laws. No matter how they rebrand it, it's a red flag law. Not only do these red flag laws violate 2nd, 5th, and 14th Amendments of the Constitution, they are in direct opposition to the Supreme Court's 6-3 decision in the Bruin case that was handed down in June of last year. I've contacted my former rival, Representative Dale Carr, and my state senator, Frank Nicely, and surprisingly have already received replies stating that they will oppose any red flag law. Keep in mind, though, what State Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson said last month about those rebranding of red flag laws. In other words, he is already working the artful lies that are used to name legislation to be something that is more palatable that can be sold to an apathetic electorate. So, my fellow Tennesseans, keep an eye on what your legislators are doing. Ask them to hold town halls. In fact, arrange a town hall yourselves and invite them to show up so they can be better informed about their constituents' thoughts about these laws, rebranded or otherwise. Let them know that they need to follow their oaths, the Constitution, and to keep in line with the Bruin decision. And speaking of voter apathy, have you seen the recent photos of U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein's return to the Senate this past week? It looked quite similar to many scenes out of the Weekend at Bernie's movie, if you know what I mean. She is the poster child of what happens when a vast majority do not participate in our system of self-governance. It is also proof positive that these communists in government will not let go of their positions of power and control, even when they look like they are on death's door. Then there's this. If you've been following the story about the trial and conviction of U.S. Army Sergeant Daniel Perry, you should recognize the lengths the communists will go to in order to criminalize our right to self-defense. Sergeant Perry was found guilty of murder in a trial last month because he dared to defend himself against a Black Lives Matter protester that pointed a loaded AK-47 at him during those Summer of Love riots. Just this past week, he was sentenced to 25 years in prison. What is really surprising about this is where the trial and conviction happened, in the state of Texas. That just shows you that the communist enclaves in red states care not one whit about our right of self-defense, especially when it resulted in the death of one of their protected classes of people. In this case, the rioters protesting the death of career criminal George Floyd. Yes, Austin, Texas is one of those commie enclaves. I have said before that if you live in one of those deep blue states, you need to leave. The same thing applies to people that live in the deep blue commie enclaves that are in red states. Get out of there too. We need to let those commie states and cities implode under the weight of their own tyranny. If you stay in those places, you are putting your own lives in jeopardy. Those states and cities that are run by the communists are no longer an example of living in a representative republic. They are George Orwell's 1984 come to life. Once government and the ruling elite have criminalized our ability to defend ourselves, the complete end to this great experiment in self-governance is at hand. And you know that that is the end goal for those people. The last thing I would like the audience to focus on is the recent revelations by the Committee on Oversight and Accountability that happened on Wednesday. They documented with evidence the long history of the Biden family crime syndicate. They literally brought the receipts and shared them with the public. This is the second release of facts that clearly demonstrate how Biden, the big guy, and his entire family have financially benefited from his position in government. I know that will not come as much of a surprise to many of you in the audience. After all, if you are willing to steal the election for the highest office in our republic, that isn't exactly your first foray into criminality. Not only has Joe Biden and his inner circle sold their souls for money and power, they have sold out our nation for money and power. That isn't what I want you to look out for or follow through on, though. I think it is safe to assume that this monstrous criminal conspiracy will run the same course as many others here in recent years that are committed by commies. What I want you to pay attention to is just how the commies, those on the left, and the ruling elite that claim to be on the right, exactly how they handle this. I do not have any trust that government, either side, will do the right thing here. The commies will either turn a blind eye and not discuss it at all, or they will call together 51 members of the intelligence community to claim that it has the earmarks of Russia, Russia, Russia. The ruling elite that claim to be Republicans and represent the political party of the Constitution, I believe they will treat this criminal activity much like they did the 2020 election. They will make speeches and they will try to massively fundraise off of it. Once they rake in millions of dollars by claiming they will get Sleepy Joe out of office, they will do nothing other than to try to pass a bunch of new laws that are meant to rob us of our sweat equity. Things are reaching ahead all over the nation, my fellow Americans. By the looks of them, it does not bode well for liberty-loving Americans. Our justice system is not blind anymore. It is rotten to the core and only enables this downward slide toward tyranny. That is it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. In closing, we have this week's wisdom from God's Word, and today it comes to us from Amos 5:7. There are those who turn justice into bitterness and cast righteousness to the ground. Our justice system has turned into bitterness against people that love the Constitution. They are bitter about what happened in 2016 and bitter about what really happened in 2020. In fact, they are really bitter about what will happen in 2024 because it will truly force them out into the open. The communists and their enablers cannot allow a repeat of 2016, so the shenanigans they will pull in 2024 will cause the ones they pulled in 2020 to pale in comparison. And it will be blatantly obvious the level of cheating and fraud that will occur, but that doesn't bother them. They witness the apathy of the public, the apathy of the justice system, heck, not apathy, but outright disdain of the judicial system all over the country, which signal to them to pull out all stops because they are not afraid of the consequences. They faced no consequences in 2020, and in some cases in certain states in 2022. They don't care about you and I. They don't care about our Constitution. They don't care about our constitutional republic. They only care about power and control and the access to our sweat equity that goes along with that. Until we can rally everybody we know, and even the strangers that we don't know, to show up in numbers not seen in over 100 years at the voting booth, our republic is doomed. Thank you all for listening this week, and I pray that you enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll be coming to you next week from Gina, Louisiana. I apologize again for the short episode. And like I said, next week it will be a full-length show. Until next week, stand in the arena with me. Reveille, it's time to wake up.